Welcome to Finding Certainty. This is Patrick Laing, your host. We meet each week to discuss the various elements and aspects and viewpoints on how to create more certainty in our lives. Oftentimes, it's not just finding certainty, but it's actually building it, developing it, and creating it. Meeting with Lloyd Ringgold today. He's a representative from one of my very favorite vendor partners and companies I've used for many years, a company by the name of LegalShield. Thanks for being here, Lloyd. Appreciate you making the time to be on Finding Certainty today.
Patrick, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You know, when we talk about finding certainty in our lives or in our businesses, obviously what you do and what LegalShield does, I think can help address that need and that desire, that goal for most business owners, for most individuals, as good, if not better, than anything else. In the show today, we're going to be breaking down a little bit about how that is and why I say that. But I always start out every episode of Finding Certainty sharing two main reasons why I've specifically asked this guest to join us. In Lloyd's case, first and foremost, is the service that he represents. It is an absolutely extraordinary service that anyone, I believe, should take part in, should protect their families and their businesses and their personal lives with. The second piece of it, though, it may surprise you, is I'm actually going to talk about the fact that Lloyd does this business. He offers this service on the side. This is not his full-time occupation. It's something he does in and around his full-time job. And there are a lot of you out there who are doing that. You have the side gig, the hustle, the side business. You're doing it in the evenings and on the weekends and so forth. And that's exactly what Lloyd has done and is doing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the complexities of that, the benefits of that, maybe the frustrations, and some of the advantages of having something that you're building in and around your full-time job. So again, Lloyd, thanks for being here. Appreciate you making your time out of your schedule to be here on Finding Certainty. So we always start out by getting to know you a little bit and hearing a little bit about your story. Maybe tell us where you're from and your upbringing. What brought you to where you are now here in Las Vegas, Nevada, doing a job and a half, working time and a half, like maybe double time compared to many people. But let's talk about what got you to where you are. And then later in the show, we'll talk about what you do exactly and how it works.
Sounds good. Well, I won't go too far back, but the bottom line is that I'm a military vet. I retired in 2013. And upon retirement, I had to figure out what I was going to do, where I was going to go, where I wanted to be. And it was really interesting because when you transition from the military, they offer something called TAP, Transition Assistance Program. And they tell you that if you can decide one of these three things, it will guide you to where you're going. So you need to decide if you're after money, if you're after prestige, or if you're after location. For me, it was pretty easy. My son lived out here with his mom in Las Vegas. And upon looking at if we wanted to get him to come to where I was, which was Barksdale, which is in Shreveport, Louisiana, or staying out here, he wanted to stay out here. And I said, well, not a problem. Then I need to go be dad. So that brought me to Las Vegas.
Good for you.
So after I got here, of course, I was busy looking for a job because though I retired, I just couldn't sit around doing nothing. And I bounced around to a whole bunch of different things, but I found myself in the retail world, which I must tell you is not for everyone.
No, it's not.
No, the retail world is a little rough. You miss holidays and the such, and it reminded me of being in the military. But initially when I was working, they said, hey, it was only going to be 40, 50 hours a week. No big deal. I'm a military guy. I got this. But they told a big fat story. It changed to 70 to 80 hours a week. And let me tell you, if you've ever done that, it's like Groundhog Day. You get up, go to work, come home, get up, go to work, come home. I'm like, oh my goodness. And it starts to take the shine off you. Makes you a little grumpy, a little irritable. So I had to find something else to do. And as you said, I worked with a service that allowed me to get my work-life balance back together again, brought a smile back to my face and a little twinkle back to my eye. So, it allows me, and really the reason why I do this, because in the military, I protected the people or I should say America with weapons. Now I'm able to protect America with law. And it just helps fill my cup. And I just love helping people.
I love that parallel. Now, so where were some of the places you served while you were in the military? What was your branch of service and your MOS or your specialty
Yeah.
while
So
you served? And thank you for
I
your
was in,
service, by the way.
oh, thank you so much. You're so kind. So I was in the Air Force. I was a B-52 radar navigator. So I dropped bombs.
Hmm.
And so off our largest bomber, our oldest bomber. But it was very exciting. And, when I look at places that I was at, I was basically all in the States. So I was started out in California, then I went to Michigan, then I went to Louisiana, then to Nebraska, then to Las Vegas. I was actually stationed out here in Las Vegas. Then I went to the Pentagon out in DC, and then I finished up back in Louisiana.
So question, and I don't know if you knew that I'm also a veteran. We're a veteran-owned company. I served for several years
Thank you for your
in the
service.
Army. Absolutely, my supreme pleasure.
And I'm supposed to give you a hard time because of the Army, but this is your show, so I would never do that to you.
Well, we're all in it together, right? I saw a quote the other day that asked the question, what does it take for the average person to be a Marine? And down at the bottom, it says the average person will never be a Marine, right?
I know that's right. Those guys are tough. Let me tell
Right.
you.
And so, but I feel like that of all of our armed forces, they're some of the finest men and women I've ever served with. And I served with multiple branches. I worked counterterrorism. So we were involved with the SEALs, involved with the Navy and the Marine Corps, Air Force, et cetera, et cetera. So, as you serve in the military, I think you'll attest to this. A B-52 bomber, by the way, incredible. If you've ever been in one, it's enormous. And there's a reason they've been going and been around and have been utilized for so many years. But as you served, okay, I know you knew and you worked with some extraordinary men and women, but what was one of the lessons that you learned that you feel like you've carried into your career and your business today?
Well, that's pretty easy for me. So I served with General Carpenter. He promoted me to my final rank. And, one of the things that I took from him, and, this was echoed throughout my career, but it was, if you take care of people, then they will take care of you. And,
100%.
I try to do that in everything that I do, keeping in mind that, something as simple as just a thank you can go a long way. And it's just has done me well, not only in both of my businesses, if you will. But I mean, this is something that's good as far as I'm concerned for life, whether you're in relationships or anything else. Just being kind to people.
Well, it applies in so many areas, right?
Indeed.
In parenting, in our relationships, marriage, et cetera, in work, most certainly in business. If you take care of people, they will take care of you. Another way of saying that perhaps is if you put it out there, it'll come back to you, right?
Indeed.
You
Yes.
pay it forward, it comes back tenfold. And it's interesting because we talk a lot and we hear a lot about the difference between abundance mindsets and scarcity mindsets.
Yes.
Right. And the scarcity mindset, it feels like there's the pie is only so big and that you split the pie and there's a piece for you and a piece for me, but you can't take any of my piece or else I'll have less and you'll have more. Right.
Right.
And yet, if someone truly understands the abundance mindset, that pie is unlimited, right? That it is expanding constantly, it changes your perspective. And I learned in the military, there was a lot of resources available, a lot of experience, a lot of opportunity, right? But one of the things I loved about being in the military was they didn't have that fear mindset or that scarcity mindset. Obviously, they had a huge budget, right? depending on who was in the Oval Office was bigger or smaller, but still, I didn't see a lot of fear in the military, a lot of worry about if we don't have enough resources to go around. They said, let's get the job done. And if we have to, we'll go get more. We'll go figure it out. We might have to reuse an old machine or an old piece of equipment, but let's get the job done first and foremost. And it was something I appreciated about my time in the military. Would
Well,
you agree?
I most definitely, and much like you, I've worked with all facets or all of the different militaries services, and while again because we're brother and we will kid each other, the bottom line is it takes all of us to get it done. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about being in the military is the fact that we had a common goal. Everybody understood what they were working towards, and it took everybody to get it done. From the people that made the food to the guys that fueled the plane, to the guys that flew the plane, to the intel people that you talked to both before and after you did a flight, and everybody in between. So, and I'm with you. It was never a fact, and never a question of, well, we don't have enough, because there was a time when I was in the Air Force where we were cutting back, and we were told basically you have to work with what you have. And you know what? That's exactly what people did. They figured out a way to get it done. So you're right. It wasn't about scarcity. It was about how do we get it done? Let's find an answer to the problem, not create more problems or ask more questions and just sit here and, be, what would I say? Be just still. A lot of times people don't want to do things. They're stuck,
Right.
in this mode where they have to get all the answers. And sometimes you just got to move forward with what you have and keep it
Right.
moving.
We fall prey in life, in business, and in even in the military at times to analysis paralysis. But I did appreciate that exact attitude that we just need to get it done. I mean, we need to take that hill. We need to take out this terrorist. We need to come up with a plan, and we needed it yesterday. And so there's a lot of that went on. And another thing I enjoyed about the military, and you might resonate with this, but I didn't see a lot of division in the military, whether it was political or racial or I mean, some of my very best friends were from all different backgrounds, all different races and upbringings. And I mean, my roommate, my battle buddy, as they called him in boot camp, was the biggest hick you ever met from deep South Alabama, and could hardly understand a word he said, and I'm on the, we were best friends, right? And we had, guys from inner city, Baltimore, and Manhattan, New York, and deep South, and Californians, but it was this total melting pot of people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all races, all colors, and we just worked together. And you think if we could figure it out in the military, why can't we figure it out everywhere else? Right. And why is it that the division has to and does exist in our nation? When I was asked to start finding certainty, I was asked, what would you want to do a show about? And that was one of the topics. I said, we need to focus on the fact that we have so much in common, so much more in common than what we differ on. There might be 5% of the things we just can't come to an agreement on. We can agree to disagree, right?
Right.
But we all want our kids to be safe at school, and we want our businesses to thrive and our nonprofits to be successful. We want clean drinking water and no potholes in the road. The list goes on, right? We can agree on almost 99% of things. There's just a very small percentage that we can't. And so,
yeah, that definitely resonates with me, and as you were saying that, we're talking about races, genders, I'm talking about sizes, tall, short, fat, skinny. It was just interesting that you did have that melting pot, and where you really saw those differences and embrace those differences. It's not really so much when you were working, because we all were working to one thing, but when you had a little time off, and you had those meetings with folks, and you broke bread with them, and you told stories and everything, or maybe you were solving a problem and somebody solved it differently than you did, and I'm like, I never thought of that. Again, because everybody was different. Everybody grew up in different neighborhoods, different parts of the country, etc.
right.
And it was just great. And I'm with you on that. I loved it.
And I don't know about you, but when I was in boot camp, we all collectively hated the drill sergeants about as much as we were all pretty in a pretty strong agreement about that, right?
Well, I mean, they were doing what they needed to do. I went to the academy, and I also served, down at Lackland and doing the drill sergeant type thing. And
Good
the
for
bottom
you.
line to it is their whole goal was to break us down and to make us cohesive. And they were doggone good at it. So you're right. We all had a common foe, if you will. It wasn't adversary so much as it was just, how do I get through this? How do we overcome what he's trying to give us? And it just made us stronger.
Exactly right. I mean, it taught us teamwork. It taught us respect, right? It taught
Yes.
us respect for authority, but also respect for systems and the process, and being ready when we needed to be. Now that takes us to your business, which we're up against our first break. But when we come back, I want to talk about being ready, because I think this whole topic, I mean, whether we're talking about our time in the military or being prepared for our families, prepared at work, being prepared for unexpecteds in our business. I'll tell you a story when I come back, but it is, I think, a powerful example and a good lead in into what you do and how you're blessing people's lives. So don't go anywhere. We're visiting with Lloyd Ringgold of LegalShield. We'll be right back after this break here on Finding Certainty. Don't go away.
All clear. Let me get that saved and we're good to go in just a sec.
So Lloyd, we'll keep recording because we normally do during the break here, but I always say they get the behind the scenes stuff if they're watching the YouTube video. But it's funny because I don't do any prep for my calls. My business partner, he's a host on Voice America. He always does a pre-episode meeting for about 30 minutes. They talk about the call. They talk about what points they want to hit on. But when I was early in my career and just a new host, I would do the same thing and it went well. And then one day I didn't have time to meet, and we just did it off the cuff. It was the best episode I'd had. And I have a very good friend, Ninon de Verderosa, who is a renowned TV personality and radio host. And she says, if someone starts telling her what she does, what they do, she'll stop them. She'll say, whoa, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know until we're on on air. And it's interesting how the shows go. I mean, this conversation we're having, I think, is a great lead into what you're doing. I had no idea we talked about that. But so anyway, we're coming back, but looking forward to the next segment here.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is nice.
All right, I'm all ready for your next segment when you are, Patrick.
All right, thanks, Jordan.
Have a great next segment going in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. This is your first time listening in. We appreciate your stopping by, and hopefully you'll continue to come back. We have a lot of listeners who come week after week. We appreciate their patronage. And, it's interesting because there's a great deal of uncertainty out there. We did a Google search of just how many times the topic of uncertainty had shown up in media just in the last 24 hours. And it was tens of thousands of hits, literally in a 24-hour period. There is a great deal of uncertainty, of fear, of worry, of not knowing what to expect as inflation goes up, as there's wars and rumors of wars. There's a lot of strife. Crime rate is rising. Rising. The list goes on and on, right? Lloyd Ringgold, who's our guest on this episode of Finding Certainty, offers a service to his customers that can help them sleep better at night in a lot of different ways. And I've been a customer for a long time. I've been wanting to have a representative from LegalShield on our show, because I think it is a perfect example of how we can not just find certainty, but we can create it in our lives. Many times, to have more certainty in our lives, we have to be proactive about developing it. We have to put measures and systems and relationships in place so that it can exist. It doesn't just happen more often than not. So Lloyd, you're a veteran, U.S. Air Force. You are now a full-time employee. And what do you do for your full-time job again?
So I am a project manager for a company called Sienna. They do IT work all over the world.
All right. In addition to that, though, and what we're focusing on in today's episode is you have your own business that you do on the side or in and around your full-time job. And that company that you represent is named LegalShield, formerly known as Prepaid Legal, correct?
That is correct. Very good.
So do you mind just in a nutshell here, in 60 seconds or so, explain what LegalShield is? Then let's break it down a little bit.
Okay. So in the easiest or broadest terms, what LegalShield is basically having a lawyer on retainer so that we've leveled the legal playing field. Oftentimes, people cannot afford attorneys. And so now what we've done is we've made it available to the masses.
Well, and that's it sounds pretty good and sounds almost too good to be true. I mean, as we get into how it works, I'll share a little bit of my experience, but understand when we talk about having an attorney on retainer, one, that sounds expensive. Two, it sounds like something that's kind of elite, something that only the very wealthy have, or, people with big businesses or things like that. How does this work for the regular Joe, right? For the regular individual or family, or even a, at-home business owner or someone like that? How does it work to join those ranks of those wealthy individuals and business owners who have the top firm in town on their speed dial list?
So let me hit 2 points that you just made. One, as you said, it does sound sort of elitist, because when you think of an attorney on retainer, you're thinking of maybe Oprah or Michael Jordan, or take any star,
Right.
or that. However, in this day and age where we sit here and watch the things that happen on TV, you're like, oh my goodness, wouldn't it have been nice if? And oftentimes we say that because we're like, well, it would be nice, but I couldn't afford it. So when I first heard about this, I got to be honest with you, I'm like, I don't need a lawyer. I'm a military guy. I've had top secret clearance. I keep myself, on the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman asked me, well, hold on a second. Let's just talk about everyday things that happen. I'm like, what everyday thing? He said, have you ever signed a contract? I'm like, of course I signed a contract. And he asked me, who read it for you? I mean, what do you mean, who read it for me? I read it. He goes, did you really read it? And I said, well, if I must be honest, you start with such excitement, and you read the first page or 2, 3, and then, they're like, well, it's, 15 pages, and you have to sign it right then. And you start skimming through it. You hope that you caught everything. He goes, wouldn't it have been nice if you could have had a lawyer review that for you? And I'm like,
most of us just scroll to the bottom and sign, right? We don't even read the fine print.
Well, I know that I'm a stickler for things, but I know that I've just signed the bottom 2. Like I said, I skimmed through it. And
I mean, it's just a cell phone contract, all right? I mean, or a direct TV contract. I mean, how can it hurt me, right?
Cell phone, car, house. I mean, the list goes on for things we've signed.
Lease agreements, right?
Exactly.
Anything. Yeah.
And so, like I said, wouldn't it have been nice to have a lawyer read? Because let's face it, those documents were written by lawyers for the lawyers. They really weren't written for you. And while I like to think that I'm an educated and smart man, I don't jump on an airplane and tell the pilot how to fly. So
right. I'm a firm believer in hiring professionals to do what professionals do. That's why I didn't finish my own basement. I didn't do my own sprinklers. I knew I could probably figure it out and maybe get it done, but it would never be as good as having that expert do it. And especially when you're talking about law, you can leave yourself seriously at risk. And it's always fine until you need it, right?
Exactly.
We think we're good. We think we're protected until someone trips on our sidewalk and we have no umbrella insurance.
There you go. So it's one of those things that I always tell people, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Absolutely.
And so when we're looking at things, as I said, it's just everyday things that happen, such as I said, signing contracts. Maybe you've had to go into a business and ask if you could talk to their supervisor because they weren't quite treating you right. Maybe you've had
you get a speeding ticket, right?
You have a speeding ticket. Maybe you need your will updated or written. Maybe it is that you've been a victim of identity theft. The list goes on for everyday things that just would have been nice to go, you know what? It would have been nice to go ahead and call a lawyer. But because of the cost, you decided not to, and you dealt with it yourself. You said, hey, I'll go look it up on Google, which is nice. But let's face it, with law, it's not a one size fits all. It depends on the circumstances. And the last time I checked, Google never passed the
That's
the law
the
test. There
bar
you go.
exam. Not even Chat GPT can get you there. I mean, right? It might try, and I've actually heard Chat GPT did pass the bar exam, but that doesn't mean they're going to be able to personalize it to you,
Exactly.
to your business, to your nuances and needs and special situation, right? So,
Right.
it's interesting because I have a situation right now that I have an accounting firm, a bookkeeping company that I hired to do our books for the year. Our previous accountant passed away, unfortunately. It took me a little while to pick a firm, and I've been paying them monthly for their service. I paid for a tax planning strategy and so forth and so on. And it has dragged on and on and on. They're too busy to get me what I need to even file my taxes. We're in November, and I had not filed my taxes yet. Well, that's when you have the attorney not just review the contract for you, but write the letter for you, right?
Yes.
Because I'm demanding a refund from them of several $1,000s. And, so literally this week, I'll be calling my LegalShield attorney to write that letter for me. So I won't tell you who it is as long as they get me my refund. Maybe I'll do it on another show.
There you go. There you go.
One of the unique things about LegalShield, and maybe you can expand on this, is when you talk about having an attorney on retainer. Again, this is a service that is available for the masses. It's something that's extremely affordable, and yet you think, okay, well, I'm only paying X number of dollars, a few dollars a month. How can I possibly get top quality representation? Can you talk about why that is and why it works so well?
Yeah, so the reason why it works so well is because we do a thing called crowdfunding. You may be familiar with that. It's where everybody pays a little, but everybody gets a lot. And so LegalShield has their own bank of attorneys, if you will, across the US and also in Canada. And because we have those people under our umbrella, when we send people to them, they take care of them. They get paid handsomely for doing so. And of course, we have a system of checks and balances to make sure that they're doing that. And when we look across what we have an average of attorneys that have approximately 17, 18 years of experience. So, you're not dealing with someone who just came out.
And it's not just experience, it's size, because oftentimes these are some of the largest firms in town, some of the most renowned. And to your point, through that, haven't heard about it referred to as a crowdfunding approach, but to your point, because we all are paying into it, when we do need help, we're calling that top rated firm, that tier 1 firm, A-rated firm, one of the largest firms in town in most cases. And they're the ones picking up the phone or writing that letter. And so, and they're thrilled to do it, right? Because we are, in effect, because we are LegalShield, because we are one part of LegalShield, in a very real sense, one of their largest customers. And so when we call, they pick up.
Indeed, they do.
And they treat you like gold, don't they? Don't they, Lloyd?
They do. I just used them the other day, and it was very interesting because I called, and oftentimes they'll call you back within 48 hours. Well, I called closer to the middle of the afternoon, and they said, hey, well, they'll go ahead and give you a call back. The gentleman called me at about, they close at 5 here, and he called at about 4:45, and unfortunately, I missed the call. I called him back and missed him, and we went back and forth and played phone tag for a minute till well after 5 o'clock. And that just shows how much they value the customer and making sure that they get to the answer as quick as possible. And I really appreciated it.
Well, how many customers are paying them millions of dollars a year, whether we use them or not, right? Month in, month out. There's something to be said about having an attorney who views you as one of their most valuable customers. They don't want to risk losing that relationship. And we benefit from that as members of LegalShield. Let's talk a little bit about the identity theft side, because that's a big concern for people, talking about certainty and fear of loss and fear of the unknown. I mean, identity theft these days is rampant. and LegalShield's identity theft portion, which is known as IDShield, I think is the best in the world. Mind talking just briefly about that?
Yeah, so as you said, if we take a look at the crimes going on in the world, cybercrime is the number one crime. The number one cybercrime is identity theft. Once upon a time, we just thought that all that meant was, hey, they maybe used your credit card or something like that, and that's what we called identity theft. But it's much more than that. We know that right now people are stealing numbers for all types of different things. But not only that, there's the black market, if you will, that's trading names, numbers, birthdays, etc. And then they don't want you; they want to be you, so they can open up other lines of credit and just do other devious things. So our company goes ahead and monitors basically your entire digital footprint. Not only that, they also take a look at the dark web and social media.
Well, it's interesting because I have friends who are in law enforcement. I was recruited heavily to go into the FBI myself. It is one of the fastest growing criminal enterprises, right? You look at child trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise. Cyber anti-cyber or cybersecurity and identity theft is right up there, right? And they're not just taking your social security number to go try to get a new credit card. They are assuming your identity. And it can be absolutely devastating if it ever happens to you. Now, what's unique about IDShield, thing that jumped out at me, is there's a lot of companies that monitor your credit and will inform you or let you know if it's been hacked or if there's been a breach. There are very few who actually will fix it for you when it happens. You don't just get a stack of forms that you have to figure out and mail to some weird post office box at Washington, D.C. I mean, IDShield and their investigation partner will actually correct it and repair it for you. Is that not correct?
That is correct. We have licensed private investigators that will do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to go ahead and get your identity back to pre-theft status. And that's what's so
that's a
unique about
broad
what we do.
statement. That is a broad statement, my friend. Say that again. It's important you hear this. If you're kind of half listening to us, making a sandwich, listen to this, if you would. Go ahead.
Licensed private investigators, our own, in-house, who will do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to get you back to pre-theft status. And that's important.
That's a bold statement. And are you still working with Kroll Investigation? Is that the partner?
Yes.
Or are there others as well? Are they the primary investigation partner, or are there others?
Yeah, they've expanded, and as we continue to improve what we do, we continue to just seek the best to go ahead and make sure that everyone's covered.
Well, Kroll is no slouch, that's for sure. They're the firm that recovered all the billions of dollars in gold that Saddam Hussein stole, among other things. They're an international company. These are the big boys, right, Lloyd?
Yes, indeed.
You're not messing around when you work with Kroll Investigations.
You can't beat them, like you just said. We are working with the best of the best to go ahead and get what we need done. And we've been identified in several different publications about how well we're doing. Forbes, being one of them, said that we were the #1 fraud protection for 2023.
100%. Well, we're up against our second and last break. We're visiting with Lloyd Ringgold of LegalShield. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit with you, Lloyd, about juggling a full-time job and a part-time business, and how do we do that? There's a lot of people listening out there who are already doing that or thinking about doing that. They want to get their slice of that American dream, and
Yes.
You are doing exactly that. So don't go away if you're listening. We will be right back with Lloyd Ringgold.
All clear. Great segment. Let me get that saved. I'll be good to go in just a second.
Thank you, Jordan. If there's anything else you want to bring up about LegalShield before we move on, don't be afraid to interject. Okay, Lloyd?
Yeah, no worries. I think that we're good. Like I said, I'm just, they have their own little thing about, saying the words. We can say we have a service that does such and such. So
yeah,
I'm trying to thread the needle, if you will, walk that thin line.
I understand. Got to stay compliant. Got to keep people happy.
Yes, you do. Otherwise, they try to shut you down.
That's right.
I'm all ready for your final segment when you are.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan. Go ahead. Let's go ahead.
All right. Have a great segment going in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. I'm your host, Patrick Laing, and we're visiting with Lloyd Ringgold of LegalShield. We've been talking about how LegalShield can help protect you, your family, and your business if you have one. If you ever need an attorney to review a contract, to write a letter for you, when you maybe just need a little bit bigger stick to get something done, that's the time to reach out to LegalShield. One of the unique things about it is they're some of the largest firms in America that work with the LegalShield customers. And so when you call, you are their number one priority. Talked briefly about identity theft and how LegalShield's IDShield program can help both protect you, and if there ever is a breach, help bring you back to status quo. Let's talk just briefly about what you do for businesses, because I know this is an extraordinary benefit for businesses and for their employees. Do you mind just touching briefly on that, Lloyd?
Yeah, don't mind at all. And it is because oftentimes small businesses especially just don't have it within their budget to go ahead and get that legal representation that they need. So again, I go back to, they're doing things and looking at different things on Google or reading a book or whatever. And oftentimes, one size doesn't fit all. I have a member who was doing just that, looking things up and whatnot. They thought they had the right form. They filled out the form. They submitted the form. They paid the money, all to find out that it was the wrong form. So they wasted both time. They wasted both money. And now they had to start all over again. By the way, they had a deadline with which they were supposed to get the information done. So, they're just behind the power curve. And, that's just one of those things that as a small business owner, that just starts adding up with all the other things that you're trying to be concerned with. So,
no, you're exactly right. It can be catastrophic if you do it wrong. Exactly. You miss that deadline, you get a penalty. You may have to go to court. You have no idea. I think about it a little bit like telemedicine, right? I had a surgery back in May of this year, and because I had a free telemedicine service where I could pick up the phone and talk to an expert, talk to a doctor, and I asked him some questions, I shared with him my symptoms, and he said, "You need to get to the ER immediately." And I got there just in time to have surgery for my appendix. It had not burst yet, but was about to. It was seriously infected. But I got in, had my surgery, got out. Thanks to my business partner, who forced me to call the teledoc. But if I had to pay something to do it, if I hadn't already paid for that service and had it at my fingertips, I probably would have laid there in bed at the hotel room. I was even out of town on a business trip. I would have laid there thinking it was a stomach ache, try to go to sleep and sleep it off. But because it was already paid for, I could pick up the phone and call that expert. And it saved my life. Any comments or thoughts on that, Lloyd?
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. You can pick up the phone and make a phone call, and then you can explain what's going on, and they can tell you what your rights are. Because here's the deal: if you don't know what your rights are, you don't have it. And so having that ability to either have them tell you that you're doing the right thing or directing you to do something else is invaluable. Because again, as a small business owner, we're talking about time. Time is money. Because if you're doing something, then you're not doing something else. And oftentimes that's the problem. We're trying to juggle more things than we can actually juggle at one time. And so this, for many people, have told me that this is a lifesaver, if you will. And again, surrounded by both time savings and money savings. So it's a great value.
Well, it's amazing to me how often I realize I can use it. Because it's free, because it's there. I've already paid for it. I pay a little bit each month. It's less than $100 a month, even for me and my business. My son got a speeding ticket or a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. Now I've got this issue with this bookkeeper. I've got a contract that needs to be reviewed. For me, it's almost every month where there's something I can use this service for. And I have an attorney that I use for our serious contracts for our business, and have another attorney for estate planning. I have attorneys that I use, but I don't want to use them at $250 an hour every time I got a question, right? Or every time I need a
250
letter
an hour.
written.
Goodness gracious, you're getting a bargain there.
400 an hour. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's interesting because you talked about being able to use it all the time. So with our plan for family, you can take care of things like contracts, speeding tickets, getting your will, your power of attorney, that type of thing being done, and it's all included with what's going on. When you look at business, you have those things too to be able to call in and ask questions. But when you start talking business, you're looking at things like collection letters, maybe employee handbooks, copyright, trademark, the list goes on. And so, and just a review of contracts. I mean, let's face it, as a business owner, many of us have contracts that either we've created or that we're signing. And we want to make sure that we're on the right side of all those things so that they'll come back to bite us later on.
Yep. All the time.
I mean, the list goes on. I could go on and tell you about all the things that it does. But the bottom line is, for everyday things that happen to us, you now have an avenue to just go and make that phone call and ask that question and have peace of mind. And that's what it's about, peace of mind.
Or in other words, certainty. Right?
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about juggling a job and a business. There's a lot of people out there wanting to do it, trying to do it. How have you been successful in doing both?
Well, I would tell you that when I took a look at what was going on, there's several different things you should evaluate, in my humble opinion, if you're going to look at doing some type of side job. So you need to take a look at the company that you're going to go with. Have they been around, or are they going to be around? Is there a need for that product or service in the marketplace? Does the product or service do what it says it's going to do? Are you going to get compensated the way you want to be compensated? And then is the timing right? So for me, when I was able to hear all the information, this made sense to me and I was able to jump in. But I was able to jump in because they had a system, and I'll be honest with you, initially, I did not follow the system because I thought I knew better. But when I was able to follow the system, it was easier to go ahead and do that juggle, as you said, because let's face it, I'm a family man, I'm a Christian, and I say that not to brag, but to let you know that I have a lot of things going on. Work is, while I might spend the majority of my time doing that, that's not my primary focus. So, I'm working, I have a family, I have my philanthropic things that I like to do. And I also want to make sure that I create wealth for my family because I want to leave something for my wife and children.
Well, one of the things that I like about LegalShield, and I'm not a representative of it, I don't make anything for saying this, but as much as I love the service, I think the opportunity to be able to work when you want to work at your own pace, on your own schedule, and earn as much as you want to is very attractive to a lot of people. In our consulting business, that's why I started it. I couldn't find another company that I wanted to work for that offered everything I was looking for in a job. And so I went and created it. Much of what we do pays a residual income. It pays this recurring revenue, which I know LegalShield does as well. What's your favorite part of working for LegalShield, even in a part-time basis, even on the side? You're not doing it full-time at this time. What's your favorite part about it, Lloyd?
There's two pieces, right? The first one is that I'm able to help people. I like to consider myself a servant leader, and I really do enjoy helping people. It's one of those things that fills my cup. So I'm able to do that. But the other one, the reason I actually started, besides being able to help people, is the fact that I have residual income. And to be able to do something one time and get paid over and over again is just phenomenal. And, at first, I guess I didn't really know the concept, but when it was briefed to me and said, hey, this is not something that's brand new. For example, if you have car insurance, your insurance agent loves you dearly. Why? Because you continue to renew, and they're not talking to you unless you got a brand new car. I mean, it's the only time you're going to call and get it updated. But other than that, most people stick around with the same firm for a long time. And they get paid over and over again, and they just love you.
100%.
Why not tap into that? I just wish I had known about this concept a lot earlier.
They say that if you understood residual income, you would go through a wall to get it.
Yes, indeed.
And whether it's an insurance agent or a financial planner, or even an artist who sells a movie or a book or something, gets royalties over and over again. That's the American dream, right? To be able to cash those, we call them beach money checks or mailbox money checks that just keep coming in, even if you're sick, even if you're on vacation, 24/7, even if you stop, it will continue to come, depending on of course, on the company and the product you choose. But
And that's why that's important about what you said, because we know that things happen in life. Wouldn't it be nice to know that you have a check coming in, even if, heaven forbid, maybe somebody got sick and you had to stop work for a little bit and go take care of that?
mhm.
And unfortunately, we know that in reading the statistics, we know that most Americans are up to their neck in credit card bills and don't even have $5 in this $500 in their savings account for that rainy day. What if something happens? And so to go ahead and have something that actually works and actually does what it says it's going to do, not only with the service but also with the payment, is a phenomenal thing.
Well, it is. I look at our salespeople, our affiliates in our company, and that is the goal of having that residual income, something they can rely on. And if you do it right, if you work with the right company, having something that generationally can be passed on and will continue to come in. Don't know if that's how it works with LegalShield, but there are programs that we're a part of that residual, as you build it, it's something you'll be able to leave to your heirs, kids,
Yes,
your grandkids, and that's amazing.
yes, we have a billable book of a willable, sorry, not billable, a willable book of business, which is fantastic. Initially though, if you don't mind, if I can back up just for a second, you asked me how I'm able to do both.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that how I'm able to do both is by following the process that we have and just being consistent and persistent. So this is something that you can do. As you said, you can run your business however you want to, but I have basically separated. I know how much time I need to work for Sienna. I know how much time I'm willing to put for my business. I know how much time I'm willing to put with family, and I'm able to go ahead and balance that basically through communication. Because let's face it, as my family is number one, but if you looked at the hours that I spend during the day, you might question that.
Well, it's hard. It's a lot of work.
It is.
I admire you for making sure, we've talked a little bit about this, but making sure that your employer is taken care of. You're not taking time from them. You're not getting paid for time that should have been spent on them, but you're actually spending it over here. You do sincerely keep your business and your job separate. And I think that's one of the principles that's really important when you're doing a side gig. Don't shortcut your employer. Don't work when they think you're out making deliveries or making calls or doing what you're supposed to do. Don't be doing your business. Make sure you have integrity first and foremost, but also you need to make sure that you are scheduling your time accordingly and making your business a priority as well. Unfortunately, our families, our loved ones, oftentimes come last because we're trying to sacrifice and build something for the future. Someday we'll be able to give it back, but I think it's important you try to keep a little bit of balance too. Don't wait for 20 years from now when you're independently wealthy and you have all that residual income coming to remember your kids and your significant other if you have them. Make sure you're, one, being honest, but two, being wise and keeping that balance and making sure they know they're important too. Even if it takes you a little bit longer, in the long run, I believe it's worth it.
You said so many things just now. I mean, and all of it resonated with me. The first about integrity. The next about, make sure that you separate things. And then the third thing was just about taking care of family and not doing that last, but being intentional. And I think that's really the key for me anyways, is being intentional whenever it is that I'm doing something. So when I'm with the family, I'm not thinking about LegalShield or Sienna. I'm thinking about them. Right. And let's face it, we've all had a phone call that you had to take for a minute or do whatever because somebody called. But it's important to say, hey, can I call you back? Because I am doing family time right now. And it's just making sure that again, you have balance and communication. And I think those are the two keys.
Couldn't agree more, my friend. I have a date night Friday night and I don't pick up the phone. I tell everybody, don't even try calling me on Friday night. And Sunday's the same. I don't work on Sunday. The rest of the time, my wife knows she doesn't see me a lot, right? We try to make up for it on the weekends, but
Amen, brother. We have date night on Saturday night, so I can
there you go.
I can respect that. And like you said, Sunday for me, is church and whatever else we're doing. So, that's how I live my life, and that's not right or wrong. It's you have to do what works for you.
You do. Well, we're at the end of our call. How do people get a hold of you, Lloyd?
Well, it's very easy. You can give me a call at 702-600-7116, or you can email me at llgg3@yahoo.com. Would love to talk with anybody that needs help to see if I could help them. And if nothing else, just for you to see what's going on, because you might know friends who might want to make a little extra money or who need help. So please feel free to give me a holler. Would be glad to take care of you. Any friend of Patrick's is definitely a friend of mine.
I appreciate you being on the call, my friend. I do believe this is one way we can not just find, but we can create and secure certainty in our lives. So thanks for being here today, Lloyd. We really appreciate it. And for all of you out there listening, stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Friday. Even though it's Thanksgiving weekend, we're having a fantastic guest next Friday on the day after Thanksgiving. So hope you'll join us then. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care, everyone. Thank you, Patrick.
All clear. Great show.
Thank you, Jordan.
No problem. Hope you both have a great rest of your evening.
You too, sir. Thank you.
So, Lloyd, we're still recording. We've got the YouTube video going. If is there anything we missed? Anything you'd want to add? Additional insights or features or anything else? Happy to stay on a little bit longer if you want to.
Yeah, no, we covered it well, and the fact that the company offers two separate pieces, if you will, or services. Both of them are intertwined, because oftentimes, if you have an identity theft problem, you may need to talk to a lawyer to go ahead and help correct that. So they go hand in hand. The fact that we have separation, if you will, that we understand that a family may have some problems, but that a business also has problems, but those two things are different. So two different lines. And the fact that we are able to take care of your entrepreneur, if you will, who just started their business, all the way up to a business that maybe has 6 figures and 100 employees. We're able to take care of each of those ends and anything in between. And so that's what makes this really nice, because people can, if you'll allow me to say, get in where you fit in. And so you don't have to have all of the services. You can have one service. You could add it later. You can subtract it if you need to. And, we're not holding anybody contract hostage, if you will. It's a month-to-month payment. And it really works out for a lot of people.
I love it. I know that you and I are fairly recent acquaintances, but I've always been a fan of LegalShield, and I think you're doing a good job. There's something to be said about doing work that not only earns you an income, but earns you or creates in your life the ability to make a difference. You're not just doing business, but you're actually doing good. It's almost like working for a nonprofit where you're blessing lives just by your efforts. Here, you can also make a lot of money at it. And it's truly win-win, I believe.
Well, this is definitely the best of both worlds. And as you said, first of all, thank you very much for the compliment. And as you said, this for me is the best of both worlds. To be able to help people. I mean, again, like I said, my cup is filled when somebody comes back and says, hey, Lord, you were able to save me some time. Lord, you were able to save me some money. You kept my son, brother, sister, aunt, whatever, out of trouble. And it just, it's a nice feeling, because let's face it, we're not put on this world to just have everything given to us and just grab as much as we can. The world is the way it is because people are giving and doing things for others. And, this allows me a small piece of being able to do that.
And as you said earlier, much rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Amen to that. We've all been there before.
I mentioned earlier, a story I heard once. I'm from Utah originally, and there's a story about when the early pioneers were traveling across the plains to try to get to the Salt Lake Valley and settle in the mountains there. And there was a group that left too late. They were caught in the mountains in the winter. And the president of the church there, the governor, Brigham Young, he said to the congregation, he says, who can go out and help these families get back? They're stuck and they were dying. I mean, they were freezing and starving. And there was a guy who stood up and said, I am ready now. I have that sign on my wall in my house. It says, I am ready now. Not, give me 3 weeks, I'll get ready. Now, these people didn't have 3 weeks, right? Or, I should probably call an attorney. I need to write a letter. This retailer has taken advantage of me. This biller is not, they owe me money and they won't pay me, whatever the case might be. Do you want to be ready now? Or do you want to start getting ready when it's too late and you're either going to hurt yourself or hurt someone or see your loved ones get hurt in the process? I don't know about you, but I'd rather be ready now.
Well, most definitely. I mean, and the problem is that we've all been there. So, I mean, we understand it's anything from, let's just say you had a leak in the house and you needed a pail. You had it on the list to go buy the pail, but now you don't have one. But what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to use pots and pans. I don't know what you're going to do. I know my personal wife would have a heart attack. You don't use pots and pans for stuff like that. Go grab the pail. But, nonetheless, you weren't prepared. And I mean, we have that there's examples of that over and over again, whether it be your car. You saw the light on, you decided not to take care of it, and now your car is seized. And you didn't take care of it because you didn't have a mechanic. You didn't know who to take it to. You were worried about being taken advantage of. But now, again, because you didn't make a decision, there's a consequence. So oftentimes it's better to be prepared for something so that you don't have to make a rash decision. And then that also allows you to have confidence in the decision that you've made.
Well, usually when we're forced to make decisions, we make them, we're not ready for it. We're not prepared. We do them rushed. We usually make poor decisions, and they usually cost us more. One of the beautiful things about LegalShield is it's a very small investment. I don't know if you want to share pricing on here. You can. I know it may change, but in general, as I said, I cover my entire family for legal, identity theft, even there's even a writer for an at-home business since I work out of my home.
Yes.
Less than $100, about $80 a month for all of that. You couldn't hire an attorney for that for even 1 hour, right?
Yeah, and that's the great thing about it. If you look at an attorney, you used $250 before, $300, $400 an hour versus paying less than $100 a month. I mean, let's face it, you don't have to be a mathematician to figure out which one of those works. And you talked about the different riders, whether that be for home business, maybe it's a gun supplement, CDL, the list goes on. We have all those things. And again, that is why I love the company so much, because, they've really thought through it and trying to take care of everything.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you the very best in your business, Lloyd. I'm glad to be working with you, and thanks for being on the show. I think it's a perfect topic, as I said, for who we are and what we do. And I hope this episode helps you in your business. And if I can do anything else to assist, please let me know. We're big fans of what you're doing and who you represent. I think everyone needs to know about it. There's too many people that are out there exposed and at risk, thinking that they can't afford to not be. With LegalShield, they can. Thanks again, my friend.
Patrick, the pleasure has been mine, sir, and I've just enjoyed getting to know you, and I feel privileged that you were kind enough to have me on your show. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good, my friend. Take care now. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.